Well, Angel, first of all, thanks for helping me with my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks, Nathan, for the invitation. Really, I got really excited about it. So a little bit about me. I currently work for the City of Houston Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, and so a lot of the work that I do revolves around advocating for persons with disabilities within the city of Houston. And one of my primary jobs is as an a sidewalk accessibility coordinator, where I make sure that sidewalks are accessible to residents with disabilities. Um, and a bit more of a personal level, I very into fitness. I am a certified personal fitness trainer, but I don't practice the license or anything or the certification. I did do it for a while, and I found that I enjoyed working out more, training myself than training. I spent a lot of my time and
That's really awesome, and it's kind of interesting. As you were talking, I I know we call people who don't have use of their legs or have trouble like walking or what have you
uh,
disabled. But on the other hand of it, things that people do on an everyday basis, these are people that have to come up with new and creative approaches to achieve the same ends. And I mean, they look at
yeah.
the world in unique and creative ways that
Mhm.
the rest of people who don't have those sort of require those approaches, would overlook. And I think about like space as an example. I was
Uh,
wondering if you knew of anybody who wanted to be an astronaut, but because of a disability or, uh, you know, being physically like not of the stereotype typical
mhm.
astronaut thing. If you knew of anybody that was sort of wanted to be an astronaut, but felt like that road was blocked to them because of that.
I personally don't know of anybody, or haven't. I don't think I've heard or seen an interview anybody or that wanted to that couldn't because of a disability. But I have been interested on the subject as far as like going into space and being maybe a person that cannot walk, or a person that is deaf or hard of hearing, or even a person that is blind, right? Like, how do you experience that? Um, or even working on the International Space Station, right? Like, if say there was a person that is hard of hearing or deaf, like how do you work with a team in space and then be able to um, because of the lack of gravity, like how does that work, like for at least for like persons that are deaf or hard of hearing. Sight gives them the ability of balance, right? And so, like, it all depends. And like, as far as for me, like, I've thought about that too. It's like, say I may not be able to become an astronaut, and maybe in a few decades when I have enough money to actually go into space for just a couple of hours, how would that be like for me, knowing that I can't, or say, just for example, say I'm in space, or a person like me that is a wheelchair user, paralyzed, goes into space, and you're out there for longer periods of time. Like, is it different for somebody like me, because I won't be able to like move my legs or exercise in space the way that a non-disabled person would, like how would that impact my body compared to somebody else, right? So yeah, I thought about those things.
Well, and the other thing is, like on International Space Station, you may use a foot to anchor yourself or to kind of push off from a wall, but it doesn't actually support your body in any meaningful way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you have like these astronauts that lose so much of their um, bone material and muscle and what have you. In some respects, you wonder um, if somebody who uh, didn't use their legs may actually be already suited for the zero G environment from a health perspective, because
Yeah.
um so the idea behind my project was I was
No,
going to oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, the connection kind of dropped out there for a minute, and I took that as silence instead of you. So, but so the idea behind my project was I wanted to use us returning back to the moon in 2024 as sort of a framework to talk to as wide a variety of people as possible about space and what they thought. And I had previously been going to like Starbucks and just asking random people or people on the street and people at the airports. But with this COVID-19 thing, I've had to take an online approach. Um, I was wondering, when did you find out that we were going to the moon in 2024?
It's been, I feel like it's been, I don't remember an exact date, but I remember either coming to one of your meetings or just, or finding that stuff to read and stuff like that. And so I think it must have been in something like that. And then whenever that, I read that or that came into my mind, I thought about like, well, how come we haven't done this decades ago, right? And so like it was really a stepping stone to getting to other places and at least within our solar system. So I got really excited. It's definitely a step forward for humanity.
And how do you think about space exploration? I mean, do you see it as something that's sort of a neat thing to show off our expertise, or do you see it as being like foundational to our survival and expansion into the rest of the universe as being like a key thing that we want to do?
Well, I think that as far as leaving the Earth, period, right? Either to the moon or to a, to another planet or maybe a potential moon. If as a civilization we want to continue for millions and millions of years, because as you know, the sun is growing, and so there's going to come a time where the earth, we're not going to be able to live on earth anymore, so we're going to have to be somewhere else. Either or we just stay here and not and just perish eventually. So I think it's a very important factor that we need to keep in mind when we want to ensure our survival moving forward. I know that there's a lot of people that say, well, why are we focusing putting funds or money into like space exploration where we have a lot of issues and things to deal with here on Earth? And yes, I agree. There are a lot of things that us as a civilization, what is that? What is the use of all of that if we fix all of those things and then we eventually perish, or there is an event that destroys the Earth or civilization? Like, what do we do then? We need to ensure that if we're going to work internally, we also have to work externally and make sure that that we have something to continue, right?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I think a lot of people are like, that's so far away. Why does it concern me? I think there's even some people that are like, the end of the world is inevitable. Um, so why should we worry about making it go on? I just kind of like, how do you relate or kind of understand those people?
Well, the way I look at it is, just from what just comes to mind right now is, you know, you know, centuries ago, if some human being would have said, why are we going to explore the rest of the earth when we could just hang out here and it's comfortable? So then maybe I wouldn't exist, and maybe Nathan, you wouldn't exist. And so that, we are doing great things now because of the decisions that other people made before us. And if you just stop and think about that, it's, if we move forward and continue and explore and develop technology that is going to advance humanity, you can only stop and think about what other human beings at that time, at that moment in time, are going to be thinking about, and be like, yes, I'm happy that my ancestors thought about all it is, because now I can do all of these other things. So yeah.
But I guess, in what way do you see our current decisions guided by that perspective?
Can you explain a little more?
Oh, I mean, do we really think about what people 100 years from now will look at our lives, and does that really make us choose one way or another? Or, I mean, to what extent do we really concern
Well,
ourselves with that?
I think um I think as a in general, as mankind, I don't think we're thinking that far in advance. I think we are looking at what we have here now and what we can develop in the next decade or two. Um, I'll give you an example. Um, AI, right? And so it's advancing, and there are a lot of people that either are against it or for it, and it's just the idea of like AI becoming a artificial general intelligence, or we're developing some type of different type of living uh, you know um, conscious organization that is going to take over us, right? Because of all of those things. So like a lot of the way I look at that perspective is, we're looking at all the positive things that maybe AI can bring to society, right? And like I was watching a show, a series, a couple of weeks ago, where a where somebody was talking about how we're thinking about the things that we want to accomplish with AI within the next decade or two, and that we shouldn't focus on like what AI is going to become 100 or 200 years from now. That's something that we worry about as we're getting there. So it's just, it's, and I like to like hear what other people's thoughts are on that too. What do you think, Nathan?
Well, every time my computer crashes, I think we're safe. But um, in terms of AI taking over the world, in terms of AI taking over the world,
What do you, how do you
um, you know, I'm less concerned about the conscious AI that's like aware of itself and sort of thinking like a human, and more
Mhm.
concerned about AIs that are dumb and heartless and, making life bad uh, just because of how they're used. And to give you an example, I interviewed one of my previous HP colleagues here, and he's looking for a job, and he's a little older, and he's like, um, I can't get any interviews or anything because I go and apply these companies, and essentially, the AI that they use to like filter their applications, he feels like he's constantly getting filtered out. I don't know how much of that's actually true in terms of the mechanics of it all, but you could see how if you can't get a job, if you can't get a loan, if you don't get approved for leasing, all because an AI is looking at your application and they don't see the human behind that application. That's not a world that we want to live in. uh, so but on the other side of it, you have these pools of workers that have skills that are being screened out of the mainstream jobs that could offer up a lot of potential for other companies who have a more kind of broader approach to go and get really good people for their jobs. And the same thing
Yeah.
true for like people who have apartment complex to lend out, to rent out. There might be this pool of really good renters that um, can't get, maybe have like a black mark on their record, but they're
Mhm.
they're really top notch and going the extra mile now to try to make up for it.
Yeah.
So um, AI. I think it's great in terms of getting rid of repetitive jobs that are really a waste for a human, such as um, trying to decide if fruit is ripe or not. I'm not really sure it's a good idea for a human to spend all their time sorting through that fruit when you can train a system to look at a picture of the fruit and say, yes, it's ripe, or no, it's not. That seems like a really good application. And then, autonomous driving. I mean, how much human time is wasted just like sitting in front of the traffic doing like this? That's not a good use of a brain.
Well, like you meant with autonomous driving is like an autonomous vehicle. Maybe during a crash, like how does it determine what is more precious? Is it the vehicle? Like, whose life is more precious? The vehicle that has a family of three versus you that just graduated from college and started your incredible life as an engineer or something, right? Like whose life is better? Like, how does the car decide either to kill you or kill the family?
Yeah,
So
those are definitely interesting choices. I guess, in one respect, today a lot of accidents happen where those choices aren't even being considered, much less decided in a way that we don't like. You have the person texting on their phone or the drunk person driving down the street, and they're completely unaware of the results of their actions and
Mhm.
what have you. Whereas in this AI autonomous driving case, back it up a little bit further and make it so that you create such a huge safety margin that you never ever have to make a choice like that.
Hmm. Interesting.
Because sometimes we
How does
follow a little too closely to the car in front of us.
yeah
Sometimes we drive in weather we shouldn't. Sometimes we take a curve too fast. Um, sometimes we get distracted or
yeah
tired.
yeah yeah. I know. I drive an hour to and from work, so I know exactly how that feels.
So 2 hours a day, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah,
But could you imagine if you got into your Tesla and you said go to the office, and then you're like, oh, I'll take a nap, and you wake up whenever you get there, or you're like doing your physical fitness while you're in the car, or you're like, I'll read a book.
I think I think I would be a little scared in the beginning. Like I would stay awake for at least a couple of months to make sure that it's actually working. And then I think like anything else, you get comfortable, you feel safe, and then eventually I'll probably take a nap. Hmm. Or read. I could read.
Oh, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
amazing the state of the art now. I went to a space conference in Austin, and one of the
Uh-huh.
people that I drove with, he had a Tesla with the automatic driving, and he let me
Really?
sit in the driver's seat on the way back, and it was a little unnerving at first, but it was great, and even lets you say how many car lengths do you want to be away from the car in front of you? So if you're a really aggressive driver, you can go up and tailgate with the automatic driving,
Really?
or if you're like me and you really want that extra, grandma level of safety, you can back it up.
Well, I think like something like that is definitely very encouraging to know because of the population that I work with, right? And so like I've talked to a lot of people that are blind or low vision, and this is something that they're very excited about because now they can, not that they don't any right now, but it just makes it a whole lot easier to just jump in a vehicle and not have a driver like an Uber driver or anything like that, and just get where they need to go to without even being behind the wheel. So, I mean, it's exciting.
I think also sometimes it has unintended consequences. There might be a lot of visually challenged people who have people in their lives that are like, hey, I really need to help them out. They can't get places. And around that
Yeah.
need, you have like the social connection. But then once you
Mm.
have pervasive, autonomous driving, you're like, hey, why you just go, or whatever. And it might be both freeing and isolating. It could be kind of both.
That's true. Yeah.
So.
That's why you tell your vehicle to call, your closest friend while you're, and you could just talk while you're getting there.
Oh yeah, you can make other
Yeah.
friends, and Zoom
Yeah.
and
Or
Facebook,
you could
and
Zoom. Yeah, you could just Zoom while you're going to wherever you're going.
yeah, you can Zoom while you're zooming.
Yes. I like that one.
There's some people that say we shouldn't be going to the moon or out into space because of messing up the moon or space. I even heard one person interview say we've messed up the Earth. Why do we want to mess up the moon too? I was just wondering what you thought about that perspective.
Huh. Um, I don't think that the Earth or the Moon or Mars, for that matter, care about what we do. I that eventually, hopefully not, but eventually something may happen where we're not going to be around, and the Earth and the Moon and Mars or whatever other moon around our solar system will eventually heal and come back to itself. Um, and I feel like why limit ourselves? And yeah, we can take safety measures to like ensure the quality of the moon and other planets. But I just feel like it, it's a waste of space if we don't try to explore and go out and learn about what we have that is around us, right?
Yeah, no, that's definitely my perspective too. And I was taken aback a little bit by the first time I heard that because I have trouble thinking about pollution without thinking about life. I mean, if there's no life, then what's pollution?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no animals or trees or microbes on the moon, then it's just essentially just a rock, um, and there's really no messing it up.
Yeah, it's already dry and cold. I mean, what are actually? I mean, what are we gonna? What much more harm can we do to it now, right? And I think like as far as like and I don't know like what the science is behind all of this, but way to make it more habitable, right? So at least that's from what I've heard.
Yeah, I think on the moon the gravity is so low. You pretty much need to have airtight compartments to keep the air from floating off.
Mhm.
Um, uh, but I mean, if you look inside like a big mall, it would feel like that. It's just it would just hold the air, and so it wouldn't be necessarily like you're cramped up. It don't necessarily have to be.
So one of the things that I've thought about a lot is once we get to the moon and we establish stations there, like how does that work? Because a lot of what we have done here on Earth is we're all living on Earth, but we all have divided the Earth into separate areas, and some areas you can't get into. So we've like established territory, and this is ours. Like we get to the moon, and what is it? Is it all land for whoever gets there and takes over that space? Is there going to be wars because of that?
Yeah, and the sad part is the wars probably wouldn't be in space itself, would be here on Earth among the people wanting those resources or trying to keep other people from
Wow.
getting them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's this thing called the Outer
Mm-hmm.
Space Treaty. It was signed, I think, in like the 1960s, early 1960s, and it basically said that no country can lay claim to anything off of the Earth. And I think pretty much every country except for like two or three, and they're not spacefaring countries, have signed
Mm-hmm.
that. So China signed it, the US has signed it, Germany signed it, France has signed it, Russia has signed it. And this is like a two-edged sword, because what it means now is that the same economic drivers that you would have for like developing California during the gold rush, where you have like prospectors go out there and find places where there's gold, and then they would file a claim and they own that and they could sell that to a mining company or to somebody else. You don't have that same incentive for the moon. So you go and find something on the moon, everybody else goes, great, thank you. And then if it's worthwhile, they just go there and get it. And other countries who want to go there and get it, they get it too. So I think that's a big challenge. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
but I mean, the challenge you also have is not only between spacefaring countries, but you have countries that are spacefaring now who are planning to be spacefaring soon. And you have other countries that are like, hey, you know, we know we don't have a space program, but we will eventually. Leave some for us. I mean, so how do you manage that?
Yeah. How do you yeah, that's a very good point. Um, I was watching a documentary last night about um, about AI also, and about how whoever develops AI first will be the rulers of the world, and so it just makes me think also like whoever develops the more stations or the most stations on the moon will be the ruler of the moon, despite of what the treaty says. It's like I have all this going on. I'm making so much money of all these resources. This company is the ruler of this moon. Well, how do you not if it's open to everybody and this company just takes over, what do you do? How do you fight that?
Well, and the other side of it, the solar system is so huge with so many resources. I, I mean, kind of you think about the Europeans landing on the East Coast, uh, they all set up like houses, and the next wave came in, they moved back a little bit further, and the next wave came in, they moved back even further, and the next wave came in, and they made it all the
Yeah.
way across the U.S. Kind of.
Yeah. It's gonna be very expensive.
It can be. The thing though is it's all about. Um, I mean, it's hard to say what's truly expensive because I mean, used to it'd be expensive to go from Houston to Florida, but you know, the Tuesday before last, my son and I just decided, hey, let's go to Florida and watch the launch. We hopped in a car, drove for 15 hours, and boom, we like did that.
Did you go? Did you go on Wednesday?
Yeah, I went to go see it on Wednesday, and I came back
Uh,
on Friday, so I missed it.
you missed it.
Yeah, I know. I know.
How did you guys feel not knowing that it did? I mean,
It's just
it's all
like,
safety
whoa.
measures, right? But as I stated, and I was at home.
Yeah,
I
so
was
we watched it.
really excited to watch that on Wednesday.
Yeah, we watched it from home too. Um, and then, the thing is, the weather was supposed to be worse on that Saturday, Sunday than it was on Wednesday, and we were like, so it's probably going to be launching early in the week,
Yeah.
and we couldn't stay that long. So it seemed like a logical decision at the time.
Well, was the trip at least fun for y'all, despite not being able to
It it,
see it
it
go?
was great to be able to get out of the house. The Kennedy Space Center Visitor Center was partially open the day after the flight, so we went there. And
Okay.
also, right outside the visitor center, there's these huge Blue Origin buildings for uh, for Jeff Bezos' space company. I didn't realize they were right outside the visitor center. You talk about a really great marketing trick.
Mhm.
So you see these huge
Sure.
buildings that say Blue Origin. You're like, what's that? And then, yeah, I thought we were going to see NASA. It looks like Blue
Yeah.
Origin is doing everything.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, if it was safe and affordable, would you have any interest in going into space yourself?
I think so. I would like to. Um, I would like to to be able to go out into space and turn back and look at the Earth. Sometimes when I'm like scrolling through social media, um, I follow a lot of different accounts where they show like the Earth as it's turning, and you see all the lights, and I just kind of just memorize, just kind of like just look at it over and over again, just think to myself like I wish I could be there and just watch all the Earth as I like float around it. I think that would be a pretty exciting thing. I think as far as like going to the moon for a long time, or or anything like that, I would wait until it's a little more settled, where it's a little more comfortable, I think.
Yeah, I know you don't want to be there in the, you're stuck in the phone booth, and
Yeah,
you know, you'll
yeah,
go there after they've built like the huge mall with like the greenhouse, and you have like
yeah.
you can strap on wings and be flying around and that type of thing.
I can move around and do stuff, not just be stuck out just looking through one window and seeing the same thing over and over again. But yeah, definitely really exciting. I think I would definitely be interested in doing something like that.
And what do you think our North Houston Space Society chapter should be doing in order to sort of raising awareness of all these opportunities um, that exploring the solar system has for mankind? I mean, like, how do you kind of start spreading the word and the excitement?
Hmm. I think I think you already do a really good job at making sure that that you have speakers that talk about different subjects. I, I I guess the only thing I can think of right now is just educating the public on like what the benefits, um, and just kind of like posting that on social media, maybe bringing in more speakers, and talk about that subject, like what are the benefits of space exploration, and how can we get there faster with the support of of our civilization, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, reaching people right now is especially difficult. You can't exactly set up a booth at the mall or go
Yeah,
attend conferences. Uh,
yeah, it's gonna be a while, I think, before we're able to do that.
when do you think we should start having meetings in person again?
I think that it's something to consider after late August. And even then, obviously, I'm pretty sure you've already thought about this, but thinking about the safety measures and the recommendations of like, like I know that when I've been to the meetings, you have like kind of each stage kind of set up, like, and you have like maybe a few rows of like 6, 8 chairs or 5 chairs, like maybe just have like two at the front and just separated by 6 feet, and then just have a few rows like that. But definitely separate those chairs, and just kind of encourage the social distancing, must wear a mask, stuff like that, and maybe just limit the amount of attendees, and still be able to maybe figure out a way where you can have a virtual kind of platform to it too, where like you can log in online and watch it happening, or you at your choice you come in and watch it in person.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was even thinking maybe we would stay online until the January meeting, and then even after that, always have an online option as well for
Yeah.
people who were in at-risk groups, or if you weren't feeling well, then you could still be a part of it. Um,
Hmm.
it's just kind of difficult to make them feel like they're there and not get hung up with like the Zoom technology instead of the people that are actually there. It's like,
Yeah, it's a different vibe, definitely.
yeah, how to create that hybrid environment, where the people who aren't there physically are interacting as smoothly as people that are,
Yeah.
and vice versa. Maybe we have like a set of telepresence robots that you can, check out
Yeah, you
and
rent it for that moment and just kind of log into it, and then you'll be able to turn and see. That'd be
yeah,
cool.
especially if you're talking to another telepresence robot. You're like, "Hi, how are you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing well." And then a human comes, in-person person comes up and say, "Hey, sorry to interrupt, but the meeting's getting started now. Can you all please go take your seat someplace or whatever."
I'll probably be like, "Hey, look, Nathan, I'm standing up."
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Angel, I really appreciate your time. Did you have any like additional thoughts in closing?
Um, I guess the only thing I would say is that I think we're living in a perfect time right now where we're able to explore different options and be the people that can be at the front of the line to see all this flourish and start, And I think maybe a few decades we can look back, look at this one conversation, and then think about, you know, all the amazing things that have happened after we were and where we're at now, right? In a few decades. And I just think like that type of mentality should really be in everyone that sees this video, or that comes to the meetings. Is we got to think, you know, ahead, and think about what we're gonna become as a civilization. I think that's really exciting. It's an exciting moment, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. And I think everybody else should too.
And I just want to tell you how thankful I am of all the positivity that you radiate in person and online. It really cheers me up and gives me a little extra pep to my days. So,
I appreciate it. Thank you for being a friend, and for all the great things that you do.
well, talk to you soon then.
All right, you take care.
Goodbye, Angel.